What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another Tottenham update where we're going to look into the last 24 hours of Tottenham news. And Dan Kilpatrick has been speaking. He says the club are determined to give Ange Postecoglou the time and support needed to build a squad in his image, which leaves many players facing uncertain futures. We did hear last week that it could be over a dozen players up for sale at Tottenham. I find it hard to believe that will happen over the course of one window, but I guess this is going to happen over the course of a few different windows.
Well, let's hope we can get as many out that we need to get out in the next window. Obviously, Ange was very clear when he says change means change, and that means letting players go, even if you think, fans might think these are good players, but that doesn't mean that they are players that are ready to play the kind of football that Ange Postecoglou wants to play, and that will leave a few players out in the cold, which maybe there's some surprises to be had in terms of who's going to be let go. It remains to be seen who it is. Obviously, of these players who have uncertain futures, I don't know if they're talking about a lot of players who are obviously coming back on loan as well. There's a lot of players in the current squad who it's obvious that we're selling. People like Højbjerg, I think people like Emerson. I think those kind of players, it's obvious that Tottenham are going to be looking to sell in the summer. But I do wonder if there are some surprises when it comes to people who might go out the door. People like maybe Richarlison, people maybe like Bissouma. I don't know. I'm not sure who's on the chopping block, to be honest. But it remains to be seen what kind of players Ange doesn't fancy. Because I'm looking at the team.
Solomon could be one.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if Manor was definitely one, to be honest. I don't know if it's worth pursuing him.
Ben Davis could be one.
I think Ben Davis makes sense.
But you talk about all those players, right? And that's still a lot of players, even like without thinking about the standard players that start week in, week out for us. You're looking at, if I just go through the squad now, you could probably put Ollie Skip in there, that's one. You'd probably put Højbjerg in there, that's another one. Bissouma and Richarlison, which are maybes, that's 4. Brian Hill, 5. Emerson, 6. Timo Werner won't be here, that's 7. Giovanni Lo Celso, 8. Ryan Sessegnon, 9. Who's next? Malo Solomon, 10. Ben Davis, 11. There's a lot of players. And that's without kind of trying to think about different players.
That's what you got to do. You got to be ruthless.
Plus the loan players coming back.
But I think that's the right thing to do in this kind of situation. We need to thin the squad a bit so we can add quality, and we need to make sure that we're getting players in the team that not only can play Ange's system, but are more ready to fight for their place as well. I think that is the right thing to do. It's going to be a big job. Obviously, I felt we did quite well in terms of getting people out, but unfortunately, a lot of people last summer, but a lot of them had to go on loan because we couldn't get permanent deals. So
this is the constant theme, though,
that's
isn't
the
it?
constant thing, and that's us paying for our previous mistakes. That's why it's so crucial to get big transfers right, because otherwise you leave yourself in this situation, or you do what Arsenal did, which is just cancel a load of contracts.
Now that a lot of these players are going into their final year, I think the club will be more willing to do that, or you just put them on loan for their final year and try and get as much wages as you can off the books. So now coming into their final contract alone isn't as big of an issue as it was maybe last year or the year before.
Yeah, I hope we can get whatever fee we can and put it towards bringing new players in, but that's always the hardest thing, especially in the recent years. I felt like 5 years ago, before pre-pandemic, clubs were more willing to spend silly money. Clubs were buying players willy-nilly. Jeff Schlipp was going for 15 million. Clubs were just willing to spend. But since that's happened, clubs are a lot more prudent now. And now you see a lot more loans, a lot more even players in their last contract going on year loans and things like that. So it is become the hardest thing in football, shifting unwanted players.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. But let's talk about specifics now. As the Footy Insider are talking about Emerson Royal, and they say Tottenham will tell Emerson Royal he is free to find a new club this summer and will accept an offer for around £20 million for the Brazilian international. How much did we sign him for?
22.
22. So we want our money back, essentially. I do think they will accept maybe a tiny loss on him, maybe 15 million or something like that.
You have to. I think Emerson is the quintessential kind of player that can't play Ange's way. He's a good player in his own right, but he's so uncomfortable in tight spaces when the ball at his feet. He's got no composure. He's really like not the kind of player you want when you're trying to keep possession. You're trying to build up from the back. Emerson Royale just hinders it at every opportunity. So even if we have to take a loss, I think it's important that people like Emerson get replaced. And I think it's the right thing to do to listen to offers.
What kind of club do you think pick up an Emerson Royale? Do you think he stays in England or goes abroad somewhere?
Maybe somewhere in Spain. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, obviously he was in Barcelona. I don't think he's going to go back there.
Maybe back to Betis or something
like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that'll be a good move for him. And I think maybe or a mid-table Premier League team. I wouldn't be surprised if someone like picks him up there, because I think he's a good player. He can play in the Premier League. I think just when you're at the top end, when you're trying to fight for big things, these are the kind of players going to let you down, I feel.
Yeah, the reality
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The reality is he's just worlds apart in terms of his style of play and our style of play are just complete worlds apart. So he is one of the ones that do need to leave this summer. Let's talk about Richarlison now, because this is an interesting one. Jack Pickford says there is serious interest from Saudi Arabian clubs in Richarlison this summer. The interest would see the club make their money back on the fee that they did pay Everton. They did pay Everton for the forward, which is about £60 million. Or euros, I can't remember which one, but
50 million plus add-ons.
So if I offered you that right now, money back for Richarlison, are you taking it?
If we've got a number of players lined up in that position who we feel is a better fit, yeah, I'll take it. I think 60 million is a good price. Obviously, that's what we paid for him. If Richarlison's happy to leave, I like Richarlison, and obviously I think when he's played this season, he's been, by and large pretty decent. But I still think technically he's lacking that little bit where if we had someone a bit of a one level above, I think he can make a world of difference to how we play. Just little things like when the ball comes into feet and he does a miscontrol or he does a little layoff and it doesn't find a teammate and all of a sudden the attack breaks down. I think he's clearly a good finisher. I think his ability to do those first-time finishes is really valuable. And I think he does have value. And I do think he would be a good backup striker. But if you're offering me 60 million at this point, considering his injury record and considering his quality, I think it's a good deal. It's a good deal, and I think it's probably worth taking.
I completely agree. And when you're looking at strikers from around Europe or even inside the Premier League, is there anyone that tickles your fancy?
I think someone like Solanke would be a better fit. I think someone like I think Jimenez might be a better fit. There's a lot of strikers out there who I think the guy from Bologna, Joshua Zirkzee, I like him as well. I think he would be a better fit. Someone a bit more physical but as well just a bit higher technical ability. And I think that's what we should be looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked into Santiago Jimenez and I've said time and time again I would love to see him through the door, but there's a worrying stat for me where he's missed a massive load of big chances this year for Feyenoord, like in the 20s. And that is very concerning for me. When I'm looking at strikers from around Europe, I'm dead set on Benjamin Sesko for RB Leipzig. He had a hard start of it this season coming in from RB Salzburg, but recently, second half of the season, he's just been completely unplayable. Similar attributes to Erling Haaland. He's got technical ability as well. He's good in the air, good with his feet, knows where the back of the net is. I think he'd be perfect for us. And there's a release clause in his contract this summer for around £60 million as well. So if you could get him out for 60 and bring him in for 60, 20 years of age as well, can grow with the club, I think he'd be the perfect option if he's willing to come here.
I like him as well. I think he's great. I saw him in the knockouts against Real Madrid. I thought he was giving Madrid no end of problems and they really struggled to deal with him. But he is a player who's been earmarked in terms of going from Leipzig to, one of those players who might go on to very big things. So whether he wants to come to Tottenham, we have to wait and see. But I like him a lot.
That's the thing, like, who out of these big clubs even need a striker right now? Arsenal do, but it looks like they could be setting their sights on a Gyökeres or someone like that. So if he doesn't go to Arsenal, what other clubs, massive clubs like that, are really looking at him? Real Madrid are going for Mbappe this summer. I don't think they're going to be looking for a striker. Man City obviously have Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez. I don't think they need a striker. I mean, who's looking for a striker?
Liverpool could be. Maybe big, also called big. Maybe Man United. Or maybe they don't know if they trust Højlund. Maybe big clubs. I don't know if Juve want another striker.
They got Dusan Vlahovic smashing out at the moment.
Yeah, but could do. I think they could do with another one potentially. I don't know. There's this. Hopefully, we can put our hat in the ring. Maybe Barcelona. Lewandowski's aging. Like there's maybe a space there as well. So. there's always competition for strikers. Are the biggest commodity, so it's never going to be easy. But if we can put our hat in the ring and sell him our vision, hopefully we can convince him to come. I think it'd be a great signing.
Yeah, he would be probably my number one priority in that position. But anyway, let's talk about potential incomings, and this is very Brazilian heavy, by the way, this update today. And we're going to talk about Rafinha of Barcelona, as Mundo Deportivo say that Barcelona need to make a significant sale in the next transfer window, and Tottenham want to take advantage by signing Rafinha. Spurs have a long-standing interest in the forward, and Barcelona want 55 million euros for the winger. At 55 million euros, obviously, since he's come back from injury, he's been brilliant for Barcelona, hasn't he? Goal contribution after goal contribution. We saw his performances when Barcelona went out to PSG in the Champions League. I thought he was one of the shining lights in that Barcelona team. I think he scored in both games, didn't he? And 55 million, not a bad price for him.
Yeah, and he's not that old. I think 27 at the moment.
Yeah.
So good age. I like him. I think he's a really good player. Obviously, he hasn't had the easiest of it time at Barcelona, but recently really been showing what he's about. I do wonder whether he'd be willing to leave, considering he's finally finding some form at the club he's always dreamed of playing at, and then all of a sudden he might be asked to leave. What I really like about him recently as well is he's actually played off the left and the right recently. Showed an ability to play both those roles. That could be of really real value. That's something of real value to what we could use as well, because off the left he can provide that byline kind of winger, and off the right he can be a bit more of a goal scorer. So I think he's shown an ability to do both kind of things. When a player like Rafinha's, when a player of Rafinha's quality becomes available, you've got to take it very seriously. And if it's an opportunity to sign him, I think it's one you've got to at least take a serious look at. Not necessarily you have to jump on it, but I think if he's willing to come for that price, and there's a deal to be done, I think we've got to very seriously take a look at that kind of deal.
Yeah, and obviously it's in a position that we do need this summer. In my opinion, this summer we should be going for a right winger, left winger and a striker, if we do sell Richarlison, that is. But if I offered you the chance, Rafinha for 55 million euros or Olise for 60 million pounds with his release clause at that, who are you taking?
Well, Rafinha doesn't have as bad an injury record as Olise. Olise's injury record is not the best, but I do think Olise is a better fit for us, and he's younger as well. So I probably would go Olise, but I think I'll probably go Olise.
I think I would agree with that as well. And last but not least, let's talk about Barcelona's Vitor Roque, as The Athletic says that Vitor Roque's agent has launched a stinging attack on Xavi and Barcelona over the Brazilian's lack of game time, and hinted that he could leave the club this summer. The Bleacher Report say that Vitor Roque has been offered to Chelsea, Manchester United and Tottenham ahead of the summer transfer window. The 19-year-old Barcelona prodigy's time in Catalonia might come to a premature end following a difference of opinion between his agent and Xavi Hernandez. And the quotes from his agent are that he's responding to a question saying, is Vitor going to go on loan this summer? And he says, no, it's dangerous for a young player in that case. It has to be a permanent move. The best option would be to stay at Barcelona and play, but if Barca don't want to let him play, he will need to look at another club. The best proposal last summer was from Tottenham, as they offered over 30 million euros to sign him, but Vitor wanted Barca. The future is to be discussed again between Barcelona and Roque's agents very soon.
I think there's a bit of posturing. I think he's going to stay. Lewandowski's ageing. He's not been the best this season, although he's still got goals. He's not. I think clearly he's on the decline, Lewandowski, and I think there's a spot opening there. So I think Barca will convince him that, look, just bide your time a little bit longer. Lewandowski's on the way out, and then you're going to be in. But understand, a young player who's got high ability and talked about as one of the next big players, especially strikers, Brazilian strikers. He's itching to get going, and he wants to be playing. And I like that. I like that he's not happy even at 19. Being a sub player at Barcelona, he's confident in his own ability that he should be starting. We've seen what players with that kind of mentality can achieve. Look at what Cole Palmer's done this season at Chelsea. He had that mentality. He's like, I don't want to stay at Man City and be a bit part player. I want to be a main player. And he's proven he's put his money where his mouth is in terms of what he's shown. So I'm sure Vitor Roque thinks the same. But I just feel like there is a space for him in that Barca 3. I don't think it's a case where I'm just looking at that strike situation. I think he could be the successor to Lewandowski, and I don't think he'd want to throw that away.
That's if Xavi rates him that highly. And, I mean, he hardly has played this season. He's had 2 starts only this season, even when Lewandowski hasn't played, he hasn't favoured Vitor Roque, where he's actually had most successes out on the wing for Barcelona this season in sub appearances. He's come on 5 times on the left wing, scored 2 goals. 4 games as a centre forward and 1 game as a right winger. So he might not even be an out and out striker like a Lewandowski.
Yeah, well, it's interesting at that age. You know, sometimes you can be put in different positions because people aren't quite sure what your best position is, and especially physically until you build up a bit. There's always kind of, are you strong enough to be a number 9 there? Look, if he's available. And, you know, Spurs obviously had a deal there, so clearly there's interest. Maybe there is something to be done. Is he going to be number 1 striker at Tottenham next season?
Probably not.
Question as well. So, but I like that mentality that he has, and maybe there could be a surprise there. I would be shocked if he ends up at Tottenham, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we had it before with Giovanni Dos Santos. You know, he came to Spurs at a fairly young age when he had a big future ahead of him at Barcelona. That didn't really work out for Spurs. But look, I guess we'll have to see and wait what happens with this one. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we spoke about today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.